What's up, everybody? It's Brian from GameSense. According to new reports, Bloodborne Remake from Bluepoint could have actually happened, but it was actually FromSoftware who said no, not Sony. Um, that's my bad, Sony. I kind of threw you under the bus in my last video. Turned out it was Sony who said yes. Uh, they didn't officially give the green light to Bluepoint, so they Bluepoint worked on the game for like 3 to 4 months. Then FromSoftware is actually the one that says no. Um, I guess they didn't trust them to do it properly, so they didn't let them do it. Because from this article here, it says over the years, fans have called for a Bloodborne remake. It never materialized, but not for a lack of trying. A new report from Bloomberg said recently Shuttered Bluepoint Games pitched the Bloodborne remake in early 2025, but the original developer FromSoftware rejected it. According to the report, Bluepoint was actually advised that the numbers made sense from software didn't want it to happen. This is a total surprise as a former PlayStation executive. Shuhei Yoshida told Kinda Funny in 2025 that the original Bloodborne director Hidetaka Miyazaki wanted to remake the game but was too busy. He added that Miyazaki didn't want anyone else to touch it. Sony honors his wishes. Sony owns the Bloodborne series, but Yoshida said in an interview that he believes Sony would respect Miyazaki's wishes about not making a remake, and that appears to be how things played out. Kind of gotta respect Sony a little bit for respecting the man's wishes. The man wanted to make it, but just didn't. He was too busy. Bluepoint was known for its remake and ports, having worked on the God of War collection, the Ico and Shadow of the Colossus collection for Sony, the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection, and Gravity Rush Remastered, along with the Metal Gear Solid collection for Konami prior to Sony buying the company. Most recently, Bluepoint was behind 2020's Demon's Souls remake that was absolutely incredible, which was very well regarded a remake of a FromSoftware game. The Bloodborne remake was not the first project that Bluepoint had rejected or canceled. The studio was also working on a live service God of War game before it was canceled, and while the team was believed to have pitched the Ghost of Tsushima spinoff, that didn't go anywhere. Bloodborne has never been ported to another platform since its 2015 PS4 release, though modders have released a 60 frames per second patch that addressed one of the biggest requests from fans. PlayStation boss Herman Holst attempted to justify the closure of Bluepoint, citing endless pursuits of growth and making more and more money. Yeah. Like, I remember when they did the Shadow of the Colossus collection, they knew they were going to lose money, but the previous Sony president said do it anyway because that game is a masterpiece. It belongs to be remastered. It needs to be updated so that way new customers can experience that. The new Sony CEO, or the newer one anyway, yeah, he just cares about his P&L statements, his profit and loss. We're operating in an increasingly challenging industry environment, Holst said. Rising development costs, low industry growth, changing player behavior, and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. To navigate this reality, we need to continue adapting and evolving. We're taking a close look at our business to ensure we're delivering today while we still well positioned for the future. Bluepoint will officially close its doors in March. That being said, the report mentioned that the companies were making phone calls to see if they might have a way to salvage the studio elsewhere. Yeah, I call BS on that. So, gamers want the same game. They just want it to be updated. It doesn't have to go from GTA 3 to GTA 5 in one game. There's a report out there that GTA 6 costs like 2.1 billion. But what people don't understand about that number is that developers from Rockstar who were let go broke their NDAs. I believe it was last year. They broke the NDA and specifically listed that this is like the 5th or 6th iteration of GTA 6. Every game got a similar budget, or every attempt got a similar budget, roughly 3 to 400 million, 500 if they really went deep into it. So people are expecting GTA 6 to be a $2 billion game, and realistically it's just going to be like a $400 or $500 million game. That's still more than GTA 5, but we don't need to wait 13 years for a game. I mean, hell, they showed off a teaser trailer for, what was it, Elder Scrolls 6 in 2018? That game ain't gonna release till probably 2028. Like, it probably won't even launch on the PlayStation 5 console. And it's sad because developers who have loyal fan bases are now abusing that fan base by releasing games that the fans don't want, so that way they can fill up their games just full of crap. And that's not what gamers want. That's why Tencent is trying to buy Ubisoft, because they're seeing games take going from 3 to 4 years of development time to 8 years, and they're like, why? Your game didn't change that much. You didn't do that much. Your particular studios that are making like your Ghost Recon games, they're not really working on other projects. The difference from Wildlands to Breakpoint, I think most people considered was a massive downgrade to how it took longer in development to create a worse product is beyond me. Tencent wants to come in and start releasing games back on a schedule. And the crazy thing is, I think that's what the industry needs right now. I think it needs a form of a schedule. When GTA was releasing every 2 to 3 years and then every 2 to 4 years, we got the best stories that GTA's ever had. When my friends asked me who hadn't bought GTA 5 yet, when I got it on release and I 100%ed it, they asked me what I thought of the game and I gave it a 7. I said, this isn't the 9.5 that I gave Vice City for when Vice City launched. This isn't GTA San Andreas that I gave like a 9 because it had just so much stuff in it and it was all great, especially considering we're still in the PS2 era. This isn't Red Dead Redemption. That's one of my favorite games of all time and one of the funnest shooters you'll ever play. You're not expecting it to be like Call of Duty. We got some of the best stories, and we didn't get microtransactions. We didn't get unnecessary DLCs unless it fit or unless fans asked for it. And when they listen to the majority of the fans who are actually buying their game, just not people bitching on the internet, it seemed like we got better products. So maybe it's time we go back to that. Because you gotta remember, the PS2, PS3 era, PS2 era didn't have patches. They had to release a finished product. We don't get finished products anymore. Now our finished product is Skyrim releasing after being in development for like 5-6 years, and then not being fixed until 2 years later. The Witcher 3 taking about a year and a half to fix it, and every single one of its patches were massive. Now, granted, that game wasn't as buggy as Skyrim was, because you could abuse the hell out of stuff in Skyrim when it was buggy, and it's still kind of buggy today. Well, exploitable, more than likely. But there wasn't as many game-breaking bugs in Witcher 3. So they were just fixing like little quirks and stuff, and quest lines and enemies not acting right, stuff like that. Wasn't the game not working. Now we get games that are broken on launch. And I think if we went back to games releasing on a set schedule of like every 4 years for a Battlefield, because what's the point of spending 8 years or 13 years between, like, there's a 13-year gap, I think, between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 6. Every single Battlefield after Battlefield 3 has gotten worse. 4 was slightly worse, 5 was worse than that, 1 was worse than that, 2042 was worse than that, and then they just try and fill the game with unnecessary crap. We don't need it. I think these game developers have lost a lot of, like, I guess because it's so contractor based, like, Sony doesn't care about letting them go as much because so many people are contractors. But Sony bought them because they believed in them. And they're like, we're going to live services, or we're just going to let it go. So that is still something Sony's got to fix, because everything, there's a tweet out there, said everything that Bluepoint pitched to Sony said no. Sony said, you're going to work on a God of War live action game. Problem with that, they didn't tell Bluepoint Games it was a live action game, and they were going to constantly need to develop content for it until they were already months into development. I think they were like 6 months into development or something before they're like, oh, hey, by the way, this is going to be live action. And Bluepoint is a small studio. They don't even have like a game director. So they were supposed to get one from Sony Santa Monica. Sony Santa Monica never sent them one. So either Sony didn't tell them, or Sony didn't care. Sony Santa Monica didn't send them somebody, and they just wanted an excuse to get rid of them because, oh, hey, they're not profitable. Let's get rid of them. I do like the fact they respected the FromSoftware's like wishes. They're like, hey, we believe the game should have a remake, but we want to do it on our dime when we have time. They haven't had time. Like, they've been so busy. I don't know if they're ever gonna have time. That's why Bluepoint was the prime like target for that. Like, there were rumors out there that Bluepoint was supposed to do the God of War trilogy remake. Well, guess what? Sony Santa Monica stepped into that, because, and the crazy thing about the live service God of War game, wasn't allowed to have Kratos in it because Sony didn't trust them with Kratos and their IP. And the number came out yesterday, which will be probably about a week from by the time y'all see this video, because it happened 2 days and I'll post this like 3 or 4 days in advance. The God of War franchise is now worth like $1.4 billion. And they didn't trust them with that IP. They trusted with the IP, but not Kratos. Then what was the point of giving them the idea anyway? Because apparently they tossed out updates like remasters and stuff to PS5. You know, bringing other PS3 games to 5. They're saying, hey, why don't we bring Shadow of the Colossus to the PS5 in a remake? And apparently there was like 6 cut bosses from the PS2 version of Shadow of the Colossus. They're like, hey, we could also bring them here. So I think because I was watching other videos on this topic, and someone mentioned that the like PS4 version had like, a couple more bosses than the PS2 version. Like if they added like 6 more bosses, like so if they added like 2 to 4 in the PS4 version, and then they add 8 more or something like that, 6 to 8 more in the PS5 version, you're talking what? An extra 50% of the bosses in Shadow of the Colossus? Like, in a complete remake with PS5 graphics? Come on now. That game would sell. I'm not saying it's going to be massively profitable. But if the game comes out, scores 9.5s again, has a similar graphical upgrade like the Demon Souls remake does, to where it's one of only like 4 or 5 true next-gen graphically games, that puts it on a short list. Don't charge $70 for it. Maybe charge $50, which seems to be that sweet spot in gaming right now. If you want to sell millions of copies and you're not expecting to, release it for $50. I got Metal Gear Solid Delta on sale for like $30 because I'm gonna pay $70 for it. And I love Metal Gear Solid 3. Now they're even looking at remaking the first game. I think that'd be pretty awesome. Now they're finally bringing Metal Gear Solid 4 to the PS5, so that way they can get it out of the cell processor locker that it's stuck in. And it's sad because the tweets that I saw for this, they say one of the reasons why they wouldn't trust Bluepoint with this, apparently FromSoftware is not actually a fan of Bluepoint, and they thought they were going to screw it up. So basically it was politics. Sony trusted them to do it. FromSoftware didn't like them. And then they're like, you know what, we're afraid you're going to screw this up. We're afraid even if we give you everything to make this game great, we don't trust you. We don't trust you to do it right. Because odds are they're probably going to do it differently than how FromSoftware would do it. But FromSoftware, if they got greenlit to do a Bloodborne remake, they might get $100 million from Sony to do it. Because Bluepoint is a smaller studio, they might get $50 million. And then they might make 30 or 40 back. If FromSoftware puts their name on it and does an official break, like, they're probably gonna make over that $100 million of that budget back. I guarantee you that. Shit, I might sell another 5 million copies, another 10 million copies. Release it, especially if they release it. If they started releasing remakes and remasters at like $50, I think that game sell another 5-10 million copies just because it's on PS5. And especially if they did an actual remake, just not increase the graphics. I'm talking about increase the graphics, increase the frame rate, and do a true like PS5 version to where the graphics blow you away. Put any cut content from that Bloodborne into this one to increase playtime. Man, I think that game would sell 5-10 million copies. Oh. So My bad, Sony. Apparently, me and a whole lot of other YouTubers jumped the gun on this one, blaming Sony. So, my apologies. That is my fault. I jumped the gun. Now that we actually have like sources and stuff coming out, it was FromSoftware that said no. So we should be mad at FromSoftware. And thanks to insiders inside of FromSoftware, we know due to politics, they don't think the remake will ever be made. And that's sad, you know? Like, it is one of the best games Sony's ever released. And we're not gonna get it. And it scored so highly. And another reason why we're not gonna get it, especially anytime soon, FromSoftware is currently working on the Dustbloods, which is kind of like the unofficial sequel to Bloodborne, but it's only for like the Switch 2 and stuff. If this was coming to PS5, Xbox, PC, and Switch 2, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Because this would at least kind of be like, this is the Bloodborne sequel we've been waiting for a long time. And it's coming out later this year. But it's not out now. And the way games have been performing lately on Switch 2, they basically just got canceled for Borderlands 2. They can't handle, Borderlands 4. They can't handle Borderlands 4. How's it going to handle this? FromSoftware is going to have to pull out a miracle to make this thing run. Anyway, that's enough for me for today. This is Brian at GameSense. If you want to talk in the comments, comment whatever game you want me to talk about. I'm always looking for new subjects. Kind of slow right now in terms of news, so I'm always happy to talk about new games. Plus, who knows, maybe if I get a lot of views on a video of a game I haven't talked about before, who knows, maybe I'll buy it and see if y'all like gameplay. Because right now I have 2 videos that were back to back on Crimson Desert that are over 300 views. And then the Crimson Overview number 2 is at over 300 views. Is at like 270. So if that one gets to 300, then I'll have 3 straight at least at 300. It's not as great as the one video that I have that has like 2,200 views. But that's actually gameplay related to Borderlands 4. I really wasn't expecting that. That's my first video. I also hit 10 subscribers. I now actually have 11. Not a horrible start, you know, for me doing this for like 3 months. So, I do want to see if I can get 100 subscribers this year. And then maybe aim that. Because once you start getting more subscribers, YouTube starts pushing you more. So, maybe next year I can get to like 500 or 1,000 or a couple thousand. Because YouTube really picks and chooses who they want to be successful and stuff. Unfortunately. Like some people will have their first video or their second video go viral, and then they got like 3,000 subs in like a month. I would love to have that after the end of my first year. Just to the point to where people could at least then be notified of your content, especially if they like it. And the more people who watch my content, the more people who have the ability to comment and then tell me what they like or don't like. Like, I know I got to figure out really how to be, because right now it's just me talking over like stuff. I know the bigger YouTubers, they have editors and stuff. That what was I gonna say? Um, I need to start putting like little gameplay clips and stuff. Like when I'm talking about like specific games, like let's say the Dust Bloods or Shadow of the Colossus, maybe have like a clip in between here, because I already have a program now that allows me to do that. But anyway, I'm rambling. Getting better at talking on camera, so hopefully my mic is a little bit louder this time. I actually took off my headset and it seems like my mic value is actually picking up. So anyway, this is Brian at GameSense. I'll talk to you later. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and if you do, I'll see you in the comments.